Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? Uh, First and foremost, did yesterday's rally in the stock market make you feel a little bit better? I don't remember the exact numbers, but it looked like we were up double digits in a single day. Then late last night, I think it was 11 o'clock. I mean, I've never been up that late in a long time, but around 11 o'clock, looked like they had final agreement here on the $2 trillion, you know, might call it a spending bill. I might call it an investment bill, whatever you want to call it. It looks like agreement was made by all parties. Haven't seen any real details yet, but that is coming. I'll be certainly looking for that today. Also, it's I've been right a lot more than I've been wrong here the last month or so. So that's encouraging to see that my lens on the chessboard is working fairly well. It means I can feel confident about the decisions I make financially and the like. So, a couple of things got my attention. First off, the rally yesterday. That wasn't. Hey Joey, that wasn't a rally to call the bottom. It was machine driven into the close. That wasn't mom and dad, buying their individual stocks. It's not how individuals work. I think one of the things that's going to come out of this when it's all looked at in the rearview mirror is we are going to have less ETFs, less index, less kind of, Wall Street kind of funds not making it easy for the individual investor. I think the theater analogy that I brought up now for a week to 10 days is it's going to be a cause to look at it. Certainly some ETFs and indexes will stay because they're good for the average investors. However, when you have seemingly more and more index and ETFs created, you can create very great dislocations. The one I'll go back to is one we talked about a week or so ago. Somebody on this channel called my attention to silver just because I'd bought it or mentioned it once in passing. And, it was down with the great liquidation. But when you go to a store and try to buy physical, it just doesn't exist. So when the physical instrument is not connected to the paper asset, is the paper asset worth anything? So I think it's going to become pretty clear that Wall Street once again sort of turned on the great casino in the sky and we all fell for it. I think what's going to happen is we're going to be stock pickers again, and you're going to look for individuals, companies that you're going to understand and bet on. We're not all Warren Buffett. It's not going to work out well. I'm not going back in. I might look if this gets down 50% just to kind of bet on America, but I'm much rather be in cash or in real estate, certainly residential real estate. There's whole pieces of this pie that are going to get crushed. The mall operators, Simon Properties, I believe, is the biggest mall operator. Man, oh man, that's going to be a bankruptcy in the next 18 to 24 months as retail just changes. It's going to change. So I think that'll become the conversation in 30 or 45 days is what part of the American economy never is the same? And believe me, that will be a good thing. Hey, Ryan, good morning. Because that's the power of the American economy and the world economy is you could leverage bankruptcy laws as a operator, clean your books, and you have the ability to start again. Nobody shoots you in the head. Nobody throws you in jail. If you got to go bankrupt, you go bankrupt, right? That's what the laws are there for. And we're going to have a wave of operators that can't. And unfortunately, that's going to have ripple effect because the debt that they were carrying won't be paid. And then that will affect pension funds. And man, it's going to be some pain to come. So a couple of things that still bother me. I'm going to keep saying this probably every day until we see him is where's Warren Buffett? Again, I remember, what was it, 12 years ago, where he was the singular calming voice. When he came on TV, I felt better. Where is he? First, I hope he's okay because it's possible he's not okay and they're just keeping it quiet. So I hope he's okay. He is 89 after all, so he's in the high risk category. Let's not forget that. So I appreciate it if he's hunkering down and reading and playing bridge, I think is what he likes. Likes to read and play bridge. So if he wants to be alone, totally get it. Mr. Buffett, jump on a Zoom call. You don't need any cameramen or mics. Just, take your iPhone, which I heard you bought a month ago, and we need to see you, Warren. Warren, if you're okay, get on a Zoom call, record yourself doing, hey guys, I'm here. You're looking for me. I'm looking at deals, whatever you're doing. So Warren, do the economy a favor and let us know you're okay. And more importantly, let us know that the number one capitalist in America is looking at deals. God, that would make us feel better, right? So Warren, record a video, put it up somewhere, create your own YouTube channel, do one video, you have 1 billion views. Next up, was very encouraged by Nike's earnings, right? If you want to feel better about the future, go check out Nike. And specifically check out Nike China. Because again, we're getting proof, right? We talked about Starbucks yesterday or the day before, that you can see that economies turn around. But I'm going to go back and I don't do this. I don't think I've done this ever. Mentioned, maybe I have, but not very often. I'm going to call on the president. Now that this $2 trillion bill is passed and you're taking care of individuals, be brave, call a 3-week national shutdown, and we could be China in 60, 75 days. If you don't, I don't even want to think about it. Because all you have to do, folks, is look at the map. Yes, you can call New York, San Francisco, Seattle as hotspots. But if you're not paying attention, look at the freaking map of infection. It is moving inland. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see where this goes. You need to shut the country down. Call it a national holiday. Call it I don't care what you call it. You want to put spin on it? Freaking go ahead. People have money now or will shortly to keep food in the fridge and pay their rent or pay their mortgage. You're giving everybody a check. You've bolstered unemployment. You have bought weeks. You, the Treasury, the Fed, Congress, whatever you want to call it, you have the power, the flexibility. Come on now and say, you know what? We're going to beat this. We're going to do something like never before. We are going to shut the country down. And oh, by the way, we're going to shut airlines down. And oh, by the way, anybody who has a manufacturing plant that they want to go create ventilators, masks, gowns, basically protective gear for our healthcare workers, we will give you an exception. Hey ho, let's go. Right? Let's get that American spirit going. We are the hotspot. It's no longer Europe. New York is the hotspot of the world. Yes, New York is the most populous and the most dense, and we should have saw it coming, frankly. I mean, it makes sense. But we have a chance. We do have a chance to open this country in Q2. We all want that. But it's going to take being brave and doing something that no president would ever want to do. Your call. The other thing we got to do is, again, back to the gowns and all of that stuff. We got to freaking quadruple or quintuple or 10x. Oh my God, 10x testing. We need to think about how we test for the rest of the year. Let's go create little drive-up clinics on seemingly every corner. There's going to be lots of retail space open. Hello. Let's go create some tests because that's the deal. You flatten it now, then you don't let it, we go back to work. But if you ever feel sick or you get around someone that was sick, go test yourself. That's what works. Test, 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 test. If we don't do it, opening on Easter is a joke. You're just going to kill millions of people. If you don't do what I've just talked about, you're giving people death sentence. Now you can argue, oh, it's less than car crashes and all that nonsense, but that's logic in an emotional battle, and that's not the argument. So next up, Fed Powell. I want to give the Fed huge kudos. I think unlike the '08 crisis where I felt the Fed was reactive, and I could say that because I was watching it intensely, I think Powell he's done things ahead of the curve, thought bigger, did massive things, watched where there was dislocation, and there's been huge dislocations in the lending market. So I'm, the more and more that I as an individual can uncover, I can see why Powell did his things on the size that he did. And clearly he's got access to data much earlier than you and I. I just want to give Chairman Powell huge thank you. You were a leader in this, and I thank you, because I honestly, if you hadn't done that, we would have been in trouble. Next up, Bernanke was speaking today, and that was, or actually, I guess he spoke yesterday. I read it today. He had one analogy that I thought was pretty telling. He talked about this event being more like a huge monster snowstorm. Having lived in California, I don't know what a snowstorm is like in reality, but I can envision one. Or I've seen the movie. Basically, you're forced to stay indoors, right? Snow's up past your door. You can't get out. You got to be with your family, but the snow goes away. And I think he's right. Calling this a depression is not appreciating what a depression is. And I talked about it either yesterday or the day before. A depression is a negative feedback loop, and it takes time, right? Right? Go back and look at the chart. The depression was years, and it was that negative feedback loop that we could never break. What we are having now is a shutdown. And because it's so severe and deep, and it will be deep, nasty, nasty numbers, it will bounce. Now, will it bounce back to where it was? Absolutely not. The market has changed forever, but it's not going to stay down at the bottom. It just won't. And then the question is, okay, how fast does it come up? Is it a W, a V, a U, to use all these, Wall Street terms? But I think that's a pretty good analogy. This is now that we got money in the street, and clearly Congress will get more money in the street the longer this goes. I don't see a depression. It's certainly going to be a recession. Q1 is going to be negative. Q2 will be the worst negative ever, depending on what the president does, and he's the only one that has the power to shut the country down, in my opinion. Q3 could be negative. So we'll see. It's clear that a bunch of REITs are in trouble. REITs, malls, office towers, all of that. There's going to be a lot of things that change after this. And we've been talking about mall operators slowly slipping away. Well, boom, gone. There'll be many malls that never reopen, just because people aren't paying their rent and nobody's coming. So it's kind of a bad combination. So there will be lots of money made if you can figure out how to convert malls into something, preferably into probably small single-family homes or apartments. But what do I know? I think ETFs and indexes, like I talked up front, are going to get a lot of the blame for the violent ups and downs you and I have suffered through. Not good. So that's not good. Hotel bankruptcies are coming. There'll just be less hotels. This is a cleansing process. There will be operators of hotels in 2 years that don't exist today, because travel will come back. These people will buy the hotels for pennies. They will suffer for a year or two, and then people will want to travel. They'll want to see family. They'll go to weddings again. Life will get back to normal. I'm very proud to see at least my indications of the $2 trillion we are taking care of the people. That allows people to take a breath, not worry about food, not worry about tomorrow, stay at home and don't do anything risky. I also think that needs to continue as long as we're calling this a national emergency, but we'll see. Next up, Facebook, Twitter, all these people that are ad dependent. Man, if you're not taking down their earnings, you're not paying attention. You're not reading their what they do. A lot of their money comes from small businesses. They are all cutting. Why would you advertise, come to my restaurant or my retail store when they're all closed? That's just, you're not paying attention if you're not cutting those. So they're going to have some numbers they never thought they would have, frankly. And then lastly, shout out to Aetna. I don't know if you saw this. So all insurance companies have already waived the cost of the test. Cool, right? You don't want to not get tested because you don't have the money. So cool. But what Aetna just did today, and I saw it right before I started this, was they've waived the cost of treatment. Apparently, being put on a ventilator can cost you up to 20 grand. That's nuts. So Aetna waiving that treatment cost, I think it was through July or June or something. So there is a time limit. That's big business doing right by people. So in the end, like I've told you, Next 2 weeks, horrible data. This thing would get passed, nailed it. Olympics would be postponed a year, nailed it. Fed Powell gets some shout outs. I like Bernanke's analogy of a snowstorm versus a depression because we're not in a depression. I think we've prevented the first nasty feedback loop. Then lastly, this whole rent and mortgage forbearance that I hear going on and on out there. You got to understand that's not forgiveness. You will pay that back, and you'll likely have to pay that back within 12 months. So all these people thinking they're going to get a free ride and debts are going to be wiped out, not happening. Just not happening. It may happen on small levels with individual operators for sure. But when you're talking about your mortgage company, your mortgage servicer, all of these folks, certainly hardships, forbearance are coming, but they're forbearance. They're delaying payments. They're putting the payment somewhere else. This is not debt forgiveness. So let's not get confused what's going on. They're going to want their money. All right. Let's see if we have 2 updates. Yesterday was so violently up, I can't envision an update today. I wish yesterday wasn't so machine driven. We have some nasty numbers, and like I've told you for a week now, they start tomorrow. Tomorrow's new unemployment claims are going to be, I can't think of a better word than horrific. And I think next week has a chance to be even worse. It's going to be bad. But hopefully by the end of next week, we have hit bottom on the news cycle. And that's important. We got to get to the bottom of the negative news cycle so we can get out of this. And a lot of this relies on our president telling us to freaking stay home, in my opinion. And also 10xing tests. Because if we can stay home for just a little while and we can ramp testing up, that's the answer. You got to test everybody who's sick. And we got to do that for longer than we're comfortable doing it. Then we can get back to work. That's the simple recipe. We can't do that today because our ability to test is worse than a third world country. It's pitiful, but we can fix it. So in the end, have a wonderful day. Take care and have fun if you can. All right.